If you're great at what you do, but you struggle to explain how you do it, this video is for you. I'm going to show you how you can use AI to analyze your actual work and extract the framework you've been using all along. Whether you're too close to see it or you've just never had the time, AI can spot the patterns and extract them and turn the work that you're already doing into a framework. So the problem is simple. When you've done this work so many times, it becomes intuition. It's just the way you do things. And sometimes it's hard to explain that to other people. You can't break it down into steps because you're doing it. But with AI, it can actually watch what you're doing, taking the transcripts of the work that you do, and identify the system that you're using, even if you can't see it for yourself. So here's how we're going to fix that. One, we're going to prompt AI to build an analysis prompt for us. Then we're going to extract the framework from your actual work. Then we're going to name it so that it's memorable and teachable, and then have a bonus prompt after that. So let's get started. First, I'm going to do this in Claude. You could do it in ChatGPT or Gemini. I'm using Claude more and more, and I'm going to start a new project just to keep it simple. So if I don't have a name yet, so I'm just going to call it new framework. And I can give it a description, but in this case, I just want to separate this out from everything else I'm doing. So the first thing I have to have is a transcript of the call that I did. Now you could have multiple transcripts as well. So if you've done this 5 different times or 10 different times, you could actually take all of those transcripts and load them in, and that might give it more context to understand. In this case, I have one transcript and I'm going to add that here. Okay, so I've got my transcript here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a prompt that I've created, and I'm going to give you this prompt. You'll be able to get that document down below. And so we're going to copy the whole thing, and you can see here there's a part in yellow that I've got to override. So I'm going to give it here. And now what I'm going to do is just stick here, and I'll use a tool. I use Whisper Flow. Basically, this allows me to talk instead of having to type everything out. So I have a transcript of me doing a work with another consultant. He was doing a project for a non-government agency, and what he was doing was working with them to analyze their workload. So he's doing a workload analysis, and he had 80 pages or so of notes, dozens of source documents that he'd gotten as part of the document review. And what he needed to do was create the final report. So in this transcript, I worked with him for a couple hours to go through a process of using ChatGPT to help him outline the report and then create the actual final report, but using his analysis, not using AI to think for him, but using AI to help him. So that's the context of what I need you to do. So I'll stop there. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the templated part. So basically this prompt, what it's going to do is ask it to think about the kind of work that I'm doing. And the reason I have it create a prompt first instead of trying to create a universal prompt is I don't know what you may be doing or I may be doing in the future. So in this particular case, I wanted to think about the particular use case that I'm trying to extract a framework for and give me a prompt optimized for that. If you're doing fitness coaching or consulting or ghostwriting, whatever it is that you're doing, it might be a totally different need. So that's why we got this transcript or this prompt to help us create that. So it takes that. So it's going to give me the prompt. So it's going to say, analyze a transcript to extract a teachable framework. So actually, I included the transcript above. I didn't need to do that. Actually, now is when I'm going to add the transcript. So I was looking for the methodology, the sequence, the key differentiators, the critical techniques. It's going to extract a 3 to 7 step framework because I want it to be between 3 and 7 steps. More than 7, it starts to get unwieldy. Less than 3, kind of like, well, that's not really a framework, right? It doesn't feel that way. Anyway, so we're going to give it a key name, 2 key actions or principles within the step, and then it's giving some instructions for the format. So it's telling it what to look for and then giving it an output structure. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that the prompt looks fine. I'm going to now upload the transcript. And it might take a few minutes depending on how fast everything is working that day. So I'll go ahead and pause this here while I wait. Okay, so it took quite a few minutes, but it finally came back with something. It's actually created it in kind of this canvas over here. So you can see it's called it the Structured Code Consulting Framework for using AI to create professional reports from research materials, core principle. Most people fail with AI-assisted report writing because they try to jump straight to the end, write me a report. Nathan's approach treats AI like a capable but literal-minded junior consultant who needs explicit structure, clear boundaries, and consistent quality control. The human does the thinking and analysis, the AI organizes and articulates it professionally. So then it goes through and it identified a 5-step process, architect the environment, And here it's giving me the key actions that you need to take, common mistakes, what success looks like. Step 2, generate the structural blueprint, key actions, common mistakes, what success looks like. Some examples. Step 3, build section by section with validation loops. Okay, you can see it's kind of repeating that same pattern over and over again. Step 4, handle complex sections with iterative refinement. And then step 5, synthesize and polish with reverse sequence. So this is really interesting. It really sounds like a very professional level framework. That's something that I could now package, right? Of course, I want to read it and make sure that it makes sense and follows what I actually did. But here, and then it created some critical success factors, separation principle, step-by-step discipline, regrounding habit, quality control mindset, outline extraction, what this approach does differently. I mean, this is, really pretty incredible. Now I can copy it, and I have a empty document over here. So I'll just paste it into here. Some people like to edit right in there. You can, a lot of times, I don't know if you can do it in Claude, but a lot of these tools you can actually edit right in here, or I could communicate with it. But sometimes I like to just read it over here and kind of make sure that, and if maybe I'm a little old school, right? Like I can kind of see it a little bit better in my mind when I read it as a Google Doc or a Word doc. So now I'm looking through, and if I wanted to change anything, this would be the time, right? I would say, actually, step 2 maybe is a little bit similar to step 1. Could we combine those and separate out this part of it? Inside of Claude, I would tell it like, hey, these are the changes that I want to make to this framework. Because before I go further, I want to make sure that the AI is working off of what I think is the best version of this framework. But in this case, I'm just going to assume, like, hey, that looks amazing. Everything is great. Like, let's assume that I've taken, 30 minutes to read through this and made any changes that I want. If I make changes, I give back to AI the final version, right? Hey, this is my updated version of the framework, because I needed to have that before I go on to the next step. So now what we're going to do is we want to say, okay, like maybe those names, right? Like they actually don't sound bad as a first go. Architect the environment. Let's see if I can pull this out. Generate the structural blueprint, build section by section. So they're not bad. They're very descriptive names, but I want to come up with more maybe unique mechanism style names, something that's a little bit more catchy. So what we're going to do is go back over here to our prompts. And now I've got a named framework. So based on the analysis, I'm going to ask it to basically give me naming ideas for the framework overall and for each step. Okay, so now I've got my framework options here. So we can see it's giving me name structured AI report method, and it's giving me step names, setup, outline, draft, validate, finalize. Nothing very exciting about that, but fairly descriptive and clear. The co-consulting report framework, ground, structure, build, refine, synthesize. I like that a little bit more. It has a little bit more of a feeling of substance, a little more working, like in the consulting world, that feels a little bit more hefty. And then framework 3 option, validated content protocol. So prepare, plan, execute, iterate, complete. And then it also gives me like a why this works. Reinforces the human AI partnership mental model where you're directing a capable assistant. This one highlights the quality control and validation discipline that makes output 90% plus ready. So I kind of think that, like, again, on a quick review, I would say and I can do this, right? I can use my voice recorder. I kind of like framework option 2 name, the co-consulting report framework, but I like the step names in option 3 a little bit better. Prepare, plan, execute, iterate, and complete. So what I'd like you to do is, using those naming conventions, update the full framework that you've written out. But instead of talking about me in the third person, I want you to make it a framework that I could share as is without having to do much additional editing. So remove the references to Nathan as a third person, and except you could change them to an I or a we if it makes sense. Or, again, keeping it as a framework that's going to go out to professional consultants so that it feels valuable for them, right? Sometimes we don't have to overthink the prompts as much. We just give the right context. AI is going to figure it out. I think before there was a lot of, like prompt engineering, and that is important, right? And there are benefits to going down that road of thinking through your prompts a lot. But I find that if you just talk through, explain what you want to do with as much detail as you can, it's going to figure it out pretty well. So now, again, it might take a minute to update. So we have to wait for that. Okay, so now I've got my updated output here. It tells me what it changed, and I can see that right here. open it over here. Let's see if I go up to the top. It's got my new naming convention in here. So we got iterate, yep. Okay, so it's all over here. So again, I can copy this, can come over here to my document. Maybe if I want to keep the old version just to compare it at some point, I could do that. I'll just create a new tab. Okay, so now I've got this updated framework. I mean, this created how many pages is this? 12-page framework out of a call that I did. It's not making stuff up. It's not AI slop. This is AI analyzing something that I actually did and helping me turn it into a framework. Now with this framework, I could go do lots of things, right? I could turn this into the structure of my content. I could create low ticket products out of it. I could take a full course out of it. I could turn this into, a clear structure for when I'm talking to clients who maybe want to hire me to do this work. So instead of just saying, yeah, I'm going to help you write a report, I said, no, I walk you through a 5-step process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is how it works. This is why it works. And this is the output that we get at the end. So when I do that, I come across as a lot more professional because I have my own framework. It's got a name, it's got structure, it's got steps. And so people are going to put a lot more credence into what I have to say. But we have one more step that we're going to do, just kind of like a bonus step here. So I'm going to go back over to the prompts that you can get again down below. By the way, if you find this valuable, we appreciate if you subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know if you find this valuable. Questions that you have, I'd love to know so I can make better content just like this. Or make better content. If this isn't good content, so I can make better content, right? Whatever. So what I'm going to do is I've got a prompt here that will help me analyze who would benefit from this framework. I need to get a clear idea of who my ideal client is. Now I got this great framework. Who can I actually share it with? Who would be the client that would pay me money to implement this framework or to learn about this framework? So basically that's what we're asking the AI to do here. Okay, so now I have here my output. It's got target audience and problem analysis, the co-consulting report framework, potential target audiences, independent project-based consultants, international development consultants, boutique consulting firm partners, corporate strategy and transformation consultants, research and policy consultants. So basically it gives me a bunch of insight into who might actually benefit from this framework. And again, I can say, hey, I think that freelancers could benefit from this framework as well. What about them? And, go back and forth. Or I can just take it and say okay, great. What can I do with this now? Again, I've got a conversation started. This particular conversation now has the full context of my original call, has the context of the framework that we've created, has the context of who has the problem that the framework can help. And so now from here, I can do any number of things. Again, turn this into a course, turn this into a PDF that I sell, turn this into a sales call script, turn this into whatever I want, turn it into social media content, because I've, again, taken something that I created, I thought up, but I didn't turn into a framework. It was just like, hey, this is over the past 3 years of using AI, how I've figured out it works. I do it all the time for myself. I happen to do it for this consultant. He brought me on to help him with this report. And we decided instead of doing it manually, or instead of me doing it for him, I would teach him how I did it so he could use it going forward. And then I turned it into a framework that now I can rinse and repeat. I can improve. I can say, hey, actually, I think there should be 6 steps. I could get it down to 4 steps. I think it should be 7 steps, whatever it is. I can battle test it by repeating it, using it over and over, and it can become a core part of my business and the way that I share what I do. So again, thank you for watching. If this was helpful for you, please subscribe, comment, let me know if it was helpful. You can get the prompts in the chat below for free. Just click on it. It's a Google Doc, and you can use them for your transcripts to help you figure out what your frameworks are.